cops crashing into a bar, and then they got the nerve to arrest the bar owner because he was mad. You crashed into my bar, and then you arrested me because I didn't appreciate it. That's the story, not made up. I'll give you the rest. Per the Riverfront Times, in the St. Louis, Missouri neighborhood of Carondelet, one of the co-owners of Bar PM is currently locked up in the city, Justice Center downtown. You don't want to be there. The owner is accused of felony assault, a charge that has sparked outrage due to the fact that he received it after a St. Louis police SUV crashed into the front of the bar. Speaking with RFT, Javad Khazaeli, on the left there, the attorney for Bar PM co-owner Chad Morris on the right said, quote, "This is embarrassing for the police department," noting there are multiple videos of the collision and its aftermath that tell a different story than the one police allege and show Morris's arrest was unwarranted. Where have I heard this storyline before? I'm hopeful that the prosecuting attorney's office, when they see the evidence that we have, dismisses these charges and holds the police accountable. Khazaeli says St. Louis Metropolitan Police have not responded to the Riverfront Times messages seeking comment. It was around 12:30 a.m. Monday when the police SUV traveling north on South Broadway, crashed into the front of the LGTBQ bar owned by Morris and his husband, James Pence, just as it was closing up. Worked a long shift now, want to head home. But one more customer busting through, not taking no for an answer, perhaps. Pence told the RFT yesterday that when the crash occurred, he came downstairs to find an officer demanding to see his identification. Pence refused and was spun around and placed in cuffs. He wasn't arrested, but Morris was accused of felony assault on a police officer and misdemeanor resisting arrest. Painting a picture here. Police claimed in charging documents that after the crash, Morris screamed obscenities. One officer wrote that he struck me hard in the chest with an open hand, causing me to temporarily lose my balance. Morrison allegedly fled into a gangway before the bar and other building, closing a gate on an officer as he did this, according to the police statement. Khazaeli says that a 20-minute bystander video of the incident tells its own story. They unlawfully handcuffed Mr. Pence. Khazaeli says they falsely claim that speaking loudly is against the law, and they use that as a predicate to arrest Mr. Morris. I have to tell you, Jackson, in my years on this earth, that sounds, I'm weighing the two stories, okay, the police version and the lawyer's version for the accused, and I got to tell you which one has a ring of truth to it. I wasn't there, okay? A portion of the bystander video was reviewed by the Riverfront Times. That portion shows what took place between the crash and prior to Morris's arrest. It shows Pence being put in cuffs. At one point, the person filming the video asked what crime has been committed. An unidentified St. Louis Metropolitan Police officer responds, "A disturbance." Now again, wouldn't the first disturbance be when you crash through my bar? Boom. That's caused a disturbance. What's going on here? That's just me, but I'm not an officer. Officer then walks toward the bystander, Matt Pfaff, as he's recording and says, he's not going to yell at me. That's causing a disturbance. And Khazaeli says at no point does the 20-minute video show Morris striking an officer. At no point does it show that. Interesting, huh? Interesting. This is one of those stories, Jackson, that it always seems to make matters worse. Instead of just booking, doing the report, saying this or that happened, whatever accident, slick roads, not paying attention, texting, I don't know. But now we're not focused on that, are we? Instead, we're focused on a man and his husband who own a bar and were closing up for the night, being arrested, accused of going, wild on the police who entered their establishment. It's just strange. RFT has also viewed what appears to be security footage taken from a different angle on South Broadway, and it shows the collision itself.
I know right where that is
Now,
too.
okay, we may have you go visit the scene and give us a report. Maybe we'll
Right.
send you down there to report, give you a mic with a TYT
He
flag
drove
on it.
straight into he just made a
This is,
left and went
let me
straight
tell you.
into the building.
Mhm. This is a different angle, Jackson, South Broadway, an area you know. It shows the collision itself. In the footage, the police SUV travels at what appears to be a high speed before it suddenly swerves to avoid a parked car, which the RFT notes the SUV didn't look like it was going to hit anyway. SUV then careens across an opposing turn lane, the sidewalk, and right into bar PM. This could have been a lot worse. Police vehicle was driven by a 32-year-old probationary officer who had been with the department for less than a year. Official police incident report said that the driver believed he was traveling too close to a parked car and attempted to correct himself. Khazaeli says they lost control of the vehicle. And immediately, the video shows the police officers being aggressive with everyone in the area to cover up what they did. Bring a truth, bring a truth, bring a truth. Morris was ordered to be held without bond. Jesus.
Mm.
Inside the City Justice Center on Monday. It's unclear as of right now when Morris will have a bond hearing, though one is expected to occur either later today, the next day in the morning, at the latest. Yeah, we're getting close to when things shut down for a certain holiday. I hope they give him a hearing. But this is what we're talking about, Jackson. You made a mistake. You were traveling what appears to be at a high rate of speed. And in that kind of neighborhood, we know what the speed limits are, the range. You might have been exceeding it. That's a good bet. You might have been distracted. But to go in and tell this elaborate story, by the way, they have body cams too. I don't know why they're not commenting. Don't police have body cams in St. Louis? They did when I worked there. Don't they have them? And
As far as
yet,
I know.
they see someone even recording this. That's why they walked over to the guy, hoping that they could recruit him to their way of thinking. And yet, you're still penning this. We don't know. Maybe the police are telling the truth. But I know from my days of reporting and from being on this earth and being a Black woman and on, one side has a ring of truth to it. The other, my spidey sense says, nah, not so much.
Well, how big of a disturbance would you really have to cause for this to be legitimate? You know what I'm saying? Like, I would imagine in order for someone to be arrested for something like that, you would have to like maybe have a gun out, or a knife or something, or really done something just absurd. But at the end of the day, the police officer is the one who drove into a building, which is rather difficult to do. It's actually it's a big accomplishment. I've never done anything like that. But all this was, he was just embarrassed. That's all this was. The cop who drove into the building was embarrassed, and he's trying to cover it up, like you pointed out.
Bingo.
But it's not going to work. I don't know exactly how this is going to turn out, when it comes to the legal system, because, court costs money and stuff like that. Good lawyers cost money. But I'm glad we're talking about this, not just because I'm here, but because this is ridiculous. I mean, you drove into this person's establishment. What is he supposed to pay for that? Is it? I don't know. But when I saw this, the first thing that popped in my mind immediately was he's embarrassed and he's trying to maintain his authority. Nothing else. Nothing else.
Yeah. Treating this block and perhaps the city like it's a police state, urban terrorism. That's what it is. Someone crashes a vehicle into a brick building. I think that's what it was. And you're not even afforded an opportunity to say, oh, okay. I don't know if that was even said. But if it turns out that the video proves conclusively that the cops lied, not just fired, arrested. Think about what you did here.
Yeah.
You sent a man who our reporting shows is likely still behind bars, still there. Haven't heard anything about him being dangerous. Haven't heard anything about him being a derelict, aggressively attacking minors, seniors. I haven't heard any of that. He and his husband run a bar. They were closing up. And now he's behind bars. Someone's not telling the truth. And if it's determined it's the police officers, arrested, fired, apologies, payments, should be the way to go. There's your blueprint. I'll give you the last word, then we'll go to break.
I agree 100%. I mean, mistakes happen. Driving into a building is a rather ridiculous mistake, but it happened. And if he would have just gotten out the car and handled it with, okay, insurance will pay for this. I'm sorry, X, Y, and Z. None of this really would have been that big of a deal. I mean, it still would have been embarrassing that he drove into a
Yeah.
building, but if he would have handled it with stronger character, then life would have moved on.
Mhm. Character. And that's why I want to know if somebody was distracted, because as you said, I'm not the best driver. And I never did it. I never
Yeah,
did that. Did
right.
some other stuff, but I didn't do that.